Hi everybody, this is Nikki again, back with another video about the 670G, a video that is my personal experience, and in actuality it's using a personal example of mine with my own numbers, and so it's my personal experience, not to be used as medical advice. The reason I was making this video this evening was because I've been doing a lot about my calibration factor and everything else, and that is really where it's at for me right now. I'm out of auto. I know 4 days ago I was begging for it to let me back in, but I'm out of auto right now because I was going nuts. And I'm much happier in manual, but I know there's a lot of people soldiering on in auto, so I wanted to show people what I saw in my numbers. And something that I saw auto mode do, and it actually is a number example of how the auto mode kicks you into that high. Again, I know it's not true for everybody. Not all diabetics are the same, so we're not all going to have the same experience, but there are lots of people reporting this, and so this is what I captured in my numbers. So if you have happened to see any of my videos, you know that this is what I'm doing right now because I'm tracking my calibration factor, but this is not that kind of video, so I will just show you what I saw between an SG delay and the auto mode end result. So on this particular day, I entered auto mode at 3:55 p.m. because my blood sugar was beginning to go low and because my calibration factor was low. At 4:48, I began testing, and at that point, I was already in minimum delivery since 3:55. My BG was continuing to drop. It was a 61. My SG was a 100. So right there, we can see the delay. It's because my calibration factor was low, so my sugar had dropped too fast for my SG to keep up. That kind of continued over the next, 20 minutes or so, where you could see the BG continuing to drop and the SG about 10 or 12 minutes later kind of catching up to what the last BG was. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky because at 4:55 p.m., and I'll tell you what, we'll just go right out to 5:01 p.m. because at 4:55, that's when I start seeing double arrows down, when in fact I knew that my sugar had stabilized. But at 5:01, my SG was continuing to drop at a 68, with another arrow down, which for me is a red flag. Like that's definitely, I'm crashing. So in reality, my blood sugar was already a 91. And my calibration factor was already even. So those are all signs that I needed to stop treating. But according to my SG, because of that delay, it was continuing to show me going down. So if I'm just kind of looking at that and just busy in life, maybe I'm continuing to eat something because I think that's what's happening, and I don't feel well because I did have a crash, right? I might be continuing to treat. But that is actually not the only effect that the SG delay has, and this is where auto comes in. At that point, it was 5:28. At this point, okay, at 5:28, I was still in minimum delivery in auto mode, and all numbers had rebounded. The only thing I can think of is I still had some insulin on board, and maybe auto mode is figuring that in, because that was over an hour and a half of minimum delivery, which is, for all intents and purposes, no insulin. I did need to hit the brakes on the insulin for a while, but I did not need an hour and a half of no basal. I rebound with an hour and a half of no basal. So at 5:31, I got out of auto, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to try to stop that rise. And interestingly, this is the first time I've noticed this. I doubt it's the first time it's happened, but the first time I noticed it, because I'm keeping all these notes, at 5:31, 3 minutes later, I got an alert before low. Well, I knew I was no longer low, and I knew I had already rebounded, but the next thing it did 4 minutes after that was suspend me. So, and I mean, I was like, wow, so if I still hadn't actually seen a BG and hadn't seen my calibration factor, which is a valuable number to me at this point, and I'm just watching that I'm being suspended and I'm continuing to go low according to my SG, I might be continuing to treat. Now I'm treating on top of an hour and a half or more because of the suspend of no basal. So this is where the fallout hits. And I think I'm going to make a couple of videos, and I don't know if anyone's going to watch. I know that people are struggling a little bit with auto, and I'm telling you why I'm not doing it right now, because I can't handle it. It was too much of an emotional burden. But here we go. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to 6:30. So I went an hour without testing. because I thought I got out of auto on time. I thought, okay, I knew what that rise was. I got out. I've ended it. At 6:30, I started with an SG of 86, a BG of 115. Again, the delay was already setting in because my calibration factor was a 7.5. So my blood sugar was starting to move fast. The SG couldn't keep up. So if I look down, I see an 86. In actuality, I'm a 115. At the next reading, 16 minutes later, my SG is now a 118 with one arrow up. So it has now caught up to my BG. So this is 16 minutes later. My SG now reflects what my BG is. My actual BG is now a 174. With a very high calibration factor because my potential is to continue to go up. At 7:03, I was a 155, 2 arrows up, but at that point, it's really a 180. At 7:15, I was a 210. And this is where I'm doing insulin along the way because I keep thinking that I've done something of whatever. And it wasn't until these last couple of days that I really, really saw that this was not anything I had put in my body. This was happening first thing in the morning. And I started to realize that auto does it to me overnight, which is nice for the hypoglycemia. But it's not nice if I sit in the morning because it really catches up to me. And it wasn't until these last couple of mornings that I went, this is not something I'm doing. This is because auto, in its best intentions, is holding me back from a lot of insulin. And I just can't recover from that rebound because I don't know it's coming. So I can't stay ahead of it. I can't do insulin before it. I can get out of auto and hope for the best. But when all things kind of line up, it can really send you for a tidal wave of a high. So I think I'm going to just cut this one like that. It's already 7 minutes. So this is an example of an auto mode rise for me. And in this case, it did hit an hour and a half later about, and it was following about an hour and a half of a minimum delivery. So hope this helps, and thanks for watching. Bye.